order to design something with a community, identify three main things that we need to look at. The first is the platform. In this case, the platform is the conference. The platform is where stuff happens, is where the conversation and the communication happens. The second pillar is the tool. In this case, the tool is the mic, but it's also the voice. And then there is the resources. In this case, a community way to create my introduction will be someone goes and look at Twitter, someone goes and maybe share their own experience they had in the past morning by just chatting with me, and together we can come and create a better introduction for myself. And I think that it's really important to consider ourselves, not just as our own individual, but also in our story and in the way that we interact with each other. Imagine yourself for a moment to be in a really dark place. I think it happened to all of us to work somewhere where we didn't feel appreciated, we didn't feel like we were doing a good job, and suddenly you see job opening in a company that you really like, and you apply just for the sake of, maybe I will learn something there, just going through the application process, and then you get a job. That's actually my story of how I get to work for Firefox, a product that I really love. But I don't know how does it work here in France, but in Germany, the normal time that you have between jobs is around 3 months, because you need to, to tell to the previous job that even if they treat you like not really like a nice person, you're leaving and you're going to another job, and in those 3 months, the words like imposter syndrome got to me. I'm like, oh my God, I know nothing. I mean, I apply because I love the Firefox, I love Firefox, the browser, and it kind of recalled me a lot of great memory, but I know really few things about their design. So, as a good millennials, I went on the internet and I just searched Firefox plus design. And I started reading about how user feels and felt about our design process and about our design artifact. And of course, people can be kind of mean. And then I started to wonder, okay, but what happened? What happened in 2013? That there are a lot of those kind of comments. And believe me, this one is one of the nicer. We removed the possibility of add endless toolbars that apparently a lot of people didn't like that. They felt that they were not empowered anymore to decide how the browser looked. And for that reason, we're reacting really badly. My name is Emanuela Damiani, and I'm a UX designer for Firefox, and I'm part of Ladies That UX community in Berlin and of the Code Emotion community as well. And in today's talk, for the next 30 minutes, I would like to share with you a lot of my personal stories and how I'm learning to use the power of community and take that energy that in that case was so negative and transform it into something more positive that we can actually use. So as I just say, turn the negative energy in something new. Before, just because, I'm not taking day off for coming here, so it seems kind of nice. Firefox is a browser. How many of you are using Firefox? Just, okay. It's fine. I think people are I think it's okay. I believe in poly browsers. I think it's fine to have more than one browser. I actually think that it's really healthy to keep our online life, that in the end is just our life, right, in different places. And what I found interesting, last talk that I gave last year was in France as well, and the market share is still pretty stable. I'm just counting the desktop here. So it seems that France kind of like Firefox a bit, and it's interesting. There is a lot of people using Safari here, which is really interesting. I love looking at stats when I go in different countries and kind of start to think of what are the reasons why a specific product is more used in one place instead of another. But enough for stats, enough first of all Firefox as a product per se. I would like to address the big elephant in the room. And to say before, I'm a UX designer, and I believe there is a huge problem about the way that we talk of design and around design in general. And the main problem is that we don't know what process apply, and it's always really hard to understand who is taking the decision on the final design. And somehow, it seems kind of easier with code, right? And I think it's because we are coming from a different culture. Designer, especially like more traditional design, they're not really used to collaborate. They're used to sit in one place to do the design, so to just do the blueprint and to prepare the design artifacts in order to give it to the builder. And those builder can be construction worker, can be, if you think of design like, I don't know, as an architect, you can give your design artifacts to people that build like a machine. Like I live in Germany, and they're like super common. Like design, there's a lot to do with automotive. Or in our industry as well, in the digital industry, in the software industry, design is seen as someone who create the artifacts, create the mock, and then they just give the mock to the developer that they have to build. And I would kind of challenge this thing. And I believe that because in programming, we have like peer programming, peer review, there is like a bit of more culture of sharing feedback. I mean, we know how sometimes also like this culture can be a bit toxic, and there is a lot of strange dynamics there as well. But there is a sort of on and off paradox. Somehow, you may argue that something is more elegant or is less elegant. You can achieve the same results with 70% less of code. But if it works, right? If your job is to send an email, and when you click a button, something needs to happen, you can see that. And it's kind of easier, I believe, with code than with design. And those are just some of the, I forgot to anonymize. I'm so sorry. Well, those are just some of the comments that happened just in February, because working for Firefox means that I work in an open source community, which means that all our bugs are open, and that for this reason, also all our design. So people were just looking at some of my new artifact for the add-ons manager. I'm part of the add-ons team in particular, and they had a lot of opinion, and those energy were like kind of interesting, right? And this is like what the I was discussing with the front-end engineer, like, actually, maybe we should do a T-shirt with their emotion. But like, that get me think, like, okay, what is the pain that they're seeing that? Are they thinking that the process is too long to get to the information that they're looking for? Is that anything that I can do in order to serve those users? Because those users that are taking time to write a comment, even nasty comments like those, they actually care. They're doing this because they care, and sometimes because they're trolls. But I like to believe mostly because they care. But how can I balance, right? How can I balance the power of some really power user that they have a really specific way to work with all the silent majority of users that they don't take time to go out and leave a comment? I see someone smiling. I hope that none of you wrote one of those comments. I see someone smiling. But like, I'm really interested, right? And of course, like I'm coming from Italy. That means that I'm really emotional by default. I'm like 30% more emotional than all my Germans and North American colleagues. But I discovered how working in the open requires a lot of work, but also a lot of calm a good friends where you can just, vent for 10 minutes, regain your calm, and then look at the problem again. It's like, oh, you know what? Let's discuss with the PM and see if we can introduce maybe some shortcuts for those people that apparently has a lot of trouble with the idea of entering the flow and having all this information being disclosed one step after the other. So maybe we can solve this problem in this way for those people, right? So how to read those messages, extrapolate the emotional part, and identify the real problem. And somehow, even if they don't know, in that precise time, when I was reading the comment, they gave me first an heart attack, because it's never nice, but also they gave me a lot of input. They gave me a lot of idea. In a certain way, we were designing that feature together. And as I said before, in order to work in the open, I think that we need those three things. One is like resources. Then we have the tools and the platform. And resources means that we can just reuse what is already in place. My first project as Mozilla was to work on the design system. And I like to describe design system as a product serving other products. What does it mean? It means that when we're going to create the system, we are going to, my aim is to make sure that the right design decision is the easiest decision as possible. Because as we heard this morning in the presentation, in the keynote, I'm aware that in the end, like, are the programmers, are the coder, that they have the final control of whatever I'm designing. And I'm aware that everyone is able to take a design decision when we design with software. And most importantly, for me, all design decisions are like user decisions. So even when we design software, we always need to kind of keep in the back of our mind how the user is going to modify the behavior of the software that we just designed. So for me, the design system is a way to make those design decisions explicit, rational. And even if we all know that shared document is not shared understanding, at least they are somewhere. At least people don't need to rely on one of two people in the organization that they know everything. There is a sort of, I don't even want to call it documentation. I would really like to call it more as a shared vocabulary. And a lot of people believe that design system, the goal of design system is kind of having a consistency, while for me it's more really to having a cohesive experience. So it's not about making all the buttons look at, I don't know, blue. Is that those buttons need to feel the same. And maybe in some platform, we can use a different shade of blue, a slightly different shape. But in the end, it's the cohesiveness of the experience. It's the fact that when you're there, you're going to feel Firefox on desktop in the same way that you feel on mobile, or in the same way that you may feel on the TV. So creating this shared language is a way to increase collaboration. Today in this conference, we have people from all over Europe, but also from all over the world, right? We all speak more or less English, and by speaking the same language, we're able to collaborate. We are able to create conversations and to increase our knowledge. And the design system does the same. The design system just creates a language that everyone in the organization, but not only, like also in your community, can use. And this was it's a screenshot for, I think, 3 months ago of the website. Like, the first thing that we put in the center is like, this is our language, this is how you should use it. And the cool thing about design system, like everything actually, is that you can always go one step deeper. So in the design system, we may talk about icons, and we may talk about the icon system. So what are the resources that we can give to people to reuse it? And what are the things that make sense to extrapolate? So again, since the resources are the thing that the end user, the member of our community can reuse, it's important to give them the information where they wanted to find it and to make it as easy as possible. And in our case, why it's important to extrapolate the photon icons and give it to the public, where we have a huge community of extension developer that they want to have their extension to look and feel like Firefox. And they want to follow something just because maybe they are really great backend developer, but they're not great front-end developer, or they don't have a really design taste. So they want to anchor something that they believe is good and that they recognize the value with. And this is nothing new, and it's not just about design. Like, what is an example that we can think about coding? I don't know. API. API is a great way to give a resource to someone and that they're able to reuse in order to create the things, right? But they're still using the same base. A bit different is with the tools, because the tools allow the member of the community to create something from scratch. And before we talk about design system, and here we'd like to talk about design tokens really quickly. The design tokens are just the decision that we take in the design system, and we extrapolate them and make it as small as possible so that other people can just reuse that small part of the information. So this person is smiling. Thank you. Yeah, it's great. We can just take the small design decision and take it. Like, for instance, we can have the photon color exposed as a JSON. And then from the JSON, we can create some variable, right? And we can reuse maybe the CSS variable in the CSS, of course. But even better, from the same source of truth, so the JSON that we have over there, we can extrapolate the color for Keynote, the color for Sketch, the color for all kind of software that allow us to create a color palette. And since that we're using a agnostic language, something that is so easy that I can even write it, even if I'm not a programmer, we're ready for the next thing. Next time that there is a new fancy programming language, there is something that our development team wants to use or our community member wants to use, the information there is so small that it's ready to be used. And again, this information can then be packaged and distributed. In this case, NPM is already a platform, right? The NPM website is already a platform where people can find this information. But before I talk about icons, so what happens if I want to create a new icon, or I notice a bug in Firefox, and I'm not working in the Firefox design team, and I want to collaborate, I can just grab the template, grab the thing, and create the icon following the resources, but creating something new. And then quickly about platforms, because we already basically talked about that, right? Platform is where we communicate with them. And platform is it's the social media. If you're working for a product, if you have any kind of interaction with your end user, it's important to be where the user are. So even if personally I found like that Reddit can be really toxic, I'm really glad that there are some people in our product, in our organization, that they spend time here to reply and to try to extrapolate, as I said before, all that negative energy and transform in something positive. And of course, the bug report. In Firefox, we historically using a lot of Bugzilla. Some of the projects are currently also on GitHub, but already displays, there is something that I always make me laugh. I said that there is a sort of Bugzilla tone, because everything is somehow really impersonal. People, even when report a bug, they get immediately super dry, super direct, forgetting that there are another person on the other part of the screen that needs to read that bug report and try to understand and try maybe to replicate. And this, of course, create tension, but they also create awareness. Something that I learned with time is that each platform has a specific language, has a specific context. And something that maybe are completely okay, on Bugzilla in terms of tone, of course they're not okay if you reproduce that in an in-person conversation, and they're not okay if you extrapolate it and you put it like on Reddit. So in a nutshell, what I believe here is that communication is the key, but not just like the communication between ourselves, in this case, like as Firefox and the Firefox communities, because that's also another thing. Like, there is not such a thing as just like one community. Even inside in this NewCrafts conference, there's going to be a lot of different community. There is the community of people that love event storming. There is the community of people that believe that functional programming is great. So inside every community, we can always go there and find our subset, our tribe, where we belong, where we speak the same language. And it's important to be able, as someone wants to receive this feedback and wants to receive this energy, to create a language that is natural, to create a language that involves everyone. And as a UX designer, I have like user, like in my job title. I'm a user experience designer who works on product. So people always tell us, oh, you need to listen to the user. Listen to the user. Listen to the user is the most important thing. And you know what? I do believe that. I think it's really true. But I found it really challenging after I started to work for a product that has such a long history, and a product that is coming from, that has a specific background, right? Coming from the open source community, it means that it has a history that is not easy to, I don't want to say to cancel, because I don't think there is anything to cancel, but of course the open source community has been changed a lot during the years, in the same way that our way to use the internet changed and our services are changed. So how I can listen to all the user without, A, being biased, because if I'm going to listen only to the member of my community, I'm forgetting about the silent majority of people that are not online to comment that, or to all those people that when they have any problem with Firefox, they close it at the Open Chrome, and they don't give me that feedback. How can I keep the balance between the community and the users, the silent majority? What I found really interesting, and this is the story part, is to run a co-participatory design workshop. Co-participatory design, I think, like, how many people are like familiar with that? No. Oh, cool. Interesting. So it's something that is started in the 80s, where people start to think like, okay, how can we get more feedback in? How can we be sure that what we're building is completely right? Well, not completely right, but it's kind of sort of right. So people start to think like, let's ask them. Let's go out and ask the user. But what happened back then is that you ended up having a product or anything that was just was only designed around specific user needs. And you ended up having, I think I was talking with someone yesterday at dinner, I was saying like, you know, I'm working on this software, and our designer went to talk with the end user, and since our end user are using Excel, the mock that they provide me look like a glorified Excel, right? Because if I like these shoes, like if I don't want to change, people really react to change, as we saw before. Like you remove something that was actually used a lot for malicious intentions, so hijacking the way that the software looks and creating all those nasty toolbar was like not really great for the end user experience. But people still react because people are comfortable with what they know. When you're going to change stuff, when I moved from a grid layout in the add-ons manager to a card design, I got, I don't know, like I think 3 Reddit thread with people say, oh, what about all this white space? wow, bullshit. Sorry. But like, it was really, really funny. Like, and in the end, like 2 weeks later, people were like, actually, I think it's okay. You know, like they were not going to say it's good. They're never going to say it's good. But they got the idea that we had in mind. They get used to the changes and they move forward. So for the co-participatory design, the key is that you need to involve end user, you need to involve stakeholders, and you need to involve all the decision maker. And of course, like I mentioned before, I'm storming, there is nothing new. If you bring people, you put in the same room, most of the time it's going to happen something good. I'm not saying just add the user and steer, but getting them in the right place. So take together a group of people with special ability, because all of us have somehow some special abilities. We can have a team that do something more. As our Nick Fury, former director of S.H.I.E.L.D. and current UX predictioner, I'm pretty sure. It's great, like with just one eye, it's great for accessibility. You can spot a lot of blind spot. So again, resources tool, a platform. What happened in London last year during Mods Fest, that was the perfect platform, because we were having a lot of people coming for a specific event. We needed to redesign a part of the extension flow, which was the submission flow. And we knew that if we were inviting people to the event, they were like be happy to be invited to the event, but they were also like we're getting them to collaborate with us. We did our own work, so we prepared some resources that were able to reuse. So in this case, we gave some guideline with the help of our content strategies around how the, and please stop me if I go into specific, how the extension, what was the voice and tone that we were expecting from extension, and what was more or less the look that we had in mind at the time. And then, of course, the tool. And in this case, the tool is something as simple as Sharpies, pen, Post-it, but it's still valuable, right? It's still something they can use to create something new based on the resources in the right platform. And we were like a member from the UX team, member of the product team, and member of the community. So we had like a really mixed group. And I believe that doing a co-participatory design is more than empathy. Empathy is great. So when we can put ourselves in our user's shoes, it's fantastic. But when you can see them, and when they can see you working, it creates just a sort of magic. And at the beginning of the workshop, we asked about the expectation. And a lot of people were like, I want to see new things. I want to learn new perspective. And I want to learn new way. And there were a lot of developers. I was like really, really surprised how the more backend people from the community say, I want to learn more about UX. You told me that it's going to be UX at this workshop. I want to see what is that, you know? And it was great. It was a great way to work together. And of course, the first thing that we did was to identify opportunity. So we mapped together the previous flow, and we just asked, well, what could we together? What we can have in better? And we listed all the ideas. But then we explored solutions together. And something that I would like to emphasize here is that the designer, in this case, we divide people in groups, and we put them in tables, but the designer were just facilitator. There were no drawing, no influencing any design decision. The only role was to be sure that the exercise was going as smooth as possible, to answer questions when needed. And everyone else, so the product people, the developer from the Firefox side, the extension developer from the community, the team designer from the community, which were two adorable ladies, like really great. They were like, I don't know what, at the beginning they were like super scared, like, I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm just doing themes. I just find images that I like and I put it as a skin for the browser. I don't know, maybe you make a mistake to invite me. Like, no, because every one point of view helps shape it something better. And it's also about getting a bit uncomfortable. The first thing that people tell me when they see a Sharpie when I'm doing a workshop is like, I can draw. You know, you see them physically putting distance between the tool and the feel like, no, I cannot draw. Like, okay, don't worry. What can you do? I can make bullet list. Okay, let's start with a bullet list. And I promise you that by the end of the workshop, everyone starts to draw boxes, rectangles. And another way to get yourself uncomfortable is, of course, giving and receiving feedback. And what I found interesting and important here was to set a framework. This was actually coming from Jennifer, our researcher there, was like, the exercise looks great, but how people are going to give feedback to each other, like, yeah, I don't know, maybe the facilitator at the table can help the conversation. And she was like, why we don't give them a framework? Why we don't put people to wear hats that they usually don't? So in this case, we use what is called like the Walt Disney method, where people need to be either like realist, spoiler, or dreamer. Dreamer is the easy one, is the one that say like, yay, this is great, awesome, and just look at the idea and identify the positive thing. The spoiler is the one that look at the idea and identify everything that can go wrong. While the realist is the one that look at the idea and is like, okay, according to what we have right now, this is going to be way harder than if we do something a bit more simple. And everyone had to turn the role. It means that if I'm a compliant, if I'm someone who loves to make people happy, because I don't want to be there and make them sad. It's like, oh, actually, your idea is not really valid. It's not feasible. Like, it's too technical. Other people will not understand it. I prefer to say like, okay, great, and maybe then go back to my room in the office and do something completely different. But by doing this exercise, we force people to get out of the comfort zone and to not fall in their reactive tendency and try something new, something different. I love the effect of this theme so much that I started to apply to our internal critique session in our team. Because I was like, I have a PM in particular who always tends to be, because it's a role, right, really realistic. But I say, what if for a change today we let someone else be the realistic and you are the spoiler? Just look at everything that doesn't work here. And that kind of changed the dynamic, but also put people in another, it changed the people perspective, right? And in this way, they were able to provide more effective feedback, especially in the end, when they started to understand how the roles were changing. And of course, it's important to document everything. And we document, of course, we are familiar with Agile, so I'm not talking to write a Google Doc and put everything there, even if it's important to collect everything. So in particular, our researcher, she loves to write down documentation. But sometimes what is enough is to just take a picture. Take a picture, remap what happened, because something really important about co-participatory design is that the end goal is not the design artifact. It's not that at the end of the workshop we're going to have the design and then someone else will take it, bring it, and take it like one-to-one. But it's about getting as much input as possible in, so that when we go back in the room, we're able to have everyone's perspective here. And then we just mapped, as I said before, the workshop was about the new submission flow. We just start mapping the flow and see, okay, where we can integrate the current flow, where does it work, where doesn't work, where do we have to start? And here, like a great tip from Evan Storming, never start at the beginning, always start in the middle, so if you forget something, you can always go back, right? And then we basically start to build our product, first, like just with the really low fidelity, and then since that Firefox and Mozilla is like a distributed team, it's a distributed company, it means that occasion, like the one that I just described to you, like the workshop, they're not just rare because we meet with the end user, they're also rare because we meet between each other in person. So it's important that our artifact and documentation, they're kind of representative. And from the workshop, by meeting this person from the community, we're able to extrapolate 3 different personas. And of course, you may think like, okay, isn't that a bit biased? Because you invite those people to the workshop. You kind of pick them with the help of our community manager from the extension team. So isn't that a bit cheating? I will agree with you, except, again, the platform. The platform was ModsFest. During ModsFest, we have, I don't know, like, it was a full building. I'm really bad to estimating people, so I will not try to do that. But like a full building full of people coming from all over the world celebrating open source. So at the we had a session there, actually, and the session went terribly wrong. No one showed up. And we're thinking like, oh my God, why nobody's showing up? And then we realized that since we weren't that was our first time at the ModsFest from the design team, when we wrote the description of the workshop, we didn't speak the ModsFest language. We didn't speak the language that people react to. So even if doing guerrilla interview is something that is kind of controversial, in that case, we decided to go, because we had a sort of controlled group of people, we were kind of having a good idea of the people that were there, we went guerrilla. And we did, in a smaller set, the same exercise that we did with a member of the community that we pick, with a member from ModsFest. So we enlarge our group of people, and we start to just asking more level question, of course, like, how do you submit stuff? And like people say, oh, I really want to talk about that because I submit a paper all the time because I'm coming from the academic background. So they're also giving us different perspective coming from different communities and from different background. And here's like what I think and what I believe that is really important to find the time, not just to build your product, but also to build your community and to build the value around your community, and be sure that if your product has good value, you're going to see the same value in your community. If your product has shitty value, you're going to see the same shitty value in your community. And yeah, and you know, as I say, I applied for this job at Mozilla because I loved the product, and I already felt a member of a community, even if now I realized that I wasn't. I was just, you know, a normal user. But be part of something bigger that can be part of a conference and organize a conference like this one, be part of your local meetup, or be part, I don't know, just of your local community, right? It really gives you something more, not just as a programmer, as a designer, but as a person. Thank you. I take any kind of questions, either here or in the open space, and I have stickers for the people. Go, Kenny. Do you need wait, you need a mic. Do we have a mic for questions? Or you just scream? Yeah, scream.
Scream. So what's the Harry Potter flow? I was curious.
Huh?
There was Harry Potter flow at one point. I was really curious
Yes. So Harry Potter flow was how we identified the flow that was like more magical, right? Was the flow that we identify for people that they want to contribute, and in our case, they want to create an extension, but they're not really confident with most of the part of coding. The salad mix one, and also the Harry Potter one is the kind of flow that we saw fit more also the need of team designers. So team designers, they just want to upload their teams. And they're happy when they see it, and they're happy if they have 50, 100 people using the same team, which is something like really nice. Like I'm a UX designer, I'm a product designer. I don't like teams, personally. But it was great to meet people, that are so passionate that they to create something and in the end, why they're doing that? They're doing it because in this way, the browser, something that's like a piece of software, just line of code in a computer machine. It feels more personal, right? The salad mix flow was a flow for people that were like kind of in the middle. So they want to do as much as possible in the code part, but then it was to switch to a kind of GUI version. Especially because when we were designing this flow, we were thinking to introduce also a redesign of our listing pages. So we're thinking like those people are the kind of people that they may find easier to understand the value of good content on the page when they see that. When they see that if your name is just like extension B, kind of doesn't really work, right? And then we had the other flow, which was people like fully technical, people that they say like, I want to do everything in the terminal. I don't even want to look at that. I just want to be sure that I have the stuff, that I'm pushing it. I don't care. And if you see over here, we identify like those 3 different persona, and those 3 different persona that were kind of related to the different flow. And I think it's nice that you notice the name, right? Because when you use some names that kind of resonate with our team, everyone remembers the Harry Potter team. Why Harry Potter? Because it's magical. If I just call it automated flow, I'm missing something, isn't it? Okay. Someone else? Please. Mm-hmm.
So did you use the participatory design to design your design system? And who was invited and how you made it iteratively?
Great question. Thank you, because I love design system, and I can talk about design system for like days. But I will try to be short here, and maybe over coffee we can go a bit more into the details. So when we start with design system, our first question that we ask ourselves was like, who is the end user of the design system right now? And at that moment, the end user of the design system were the people in the organization. We didn't thought that people from the community were going to use it as much as they did. So we did a workshop, but we did a workshop only with a small set of developers from Firefox, from some designer from the team. What was interesting, though, is that extension developer in particular, but also other kind of developer, discovered the design system. No, it's not a discovery. I mean, there is nothing secret, but but we really did an advertising. But since people were starting to referring to the system in bugs, they were like curious. They went there and they started filling bug for us. They said like, oh, this is really interesting, but aren't you missing like a switch element? Aren't you missing that? So in this case, we leverage a platform like GitHub, because for the design system in particular, we didn't have any specific request to build it and to use it Bugzilla as a bug tracker. And we just put, let me go back. We just put a small button at the end of the website that said, site feedback, right? I'm a huge believer like creating feedback loop, feedback loop. So just having this entry point facilitate the conversation. Instead of having people maybe going nasty on Twitter and Reddit, we welcome them. So like, do you have a feedback? Come here. This is the right place. And at the as I said before, at the beginning, we weren't like really sure. We're like, oh my God, those people really want to use it. And then also because I was part of both teams, we integrate them together. And yes, it's an iterative process. At the moment, since we are expanding a bit the Firefox brand, I don't want to say that we stop, but we're kind of branching. And we're doing an exploration like this in order to reconnect like that. I hope it makes sense. Yeah, like as I said before, right, design system is a design language. And like every language, it evolves with time. So that's it. Does that answer your question, more or less? Great. I think we have time for one more question, maybe? But don't be shy, like. Hey.
You say you worry about having those people that don't, the silent majority coming, right? And your solution should be, let's invite lots and lots and lots and lots of people to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And you talk about the people that you switched. Did you do anything specifically to take those people that switched out to participate, or just not to?
So I just try to rephrase your question to see if I understood. You're asking me, what do we do to involve people that they are silent, basically? We do a lot of user research in general, right? We do a lot of user research, and every time that we do any kind of research or product testing, I don't like the word user testing because it seems that we are testing the user, but we don't actually. We're just doing a different kind of testing of the product with real people. So what we do in that case is that we never, when we do the recruitment, because you need to recruit people for any kind of testing, right? We never focus only on Firefox user, because Firefox user are going to tell us stuff that maybe we already know, stuff that maybe we can already see. So we always going to recruit people that also use multiple browsers, that they use, of course, like Chrome, since that everyone uses Chrome, because Google is everywhere, maybe even in this room. Probably. I mean, how many of you has an Android phone? An Android. So Google is here with us all the time. It does some really all the IE, like the assistant, they always listen to us and they do weird stuff. I don't. That's topic maybe for the drinks later. But yeah, I think we are out of time, but I don't know. Yeah, I think that's it. Thank you, everyone.